So the purpose of this short presentation is to introduce you to the concept of sexual selection. So sexual selection is a type of natural selection where it's specifically for reproductive success instead of survival within a certain environment. And with sexual selection, we actually see it acting more strongly on males than females. And there's a reason for this. So sexual selection is caused by what we call the asymmetry of sex. So females have basically earned the right to be choosy because they make such a large investment in producing offspring. And the males have to compete for them. So, for example, females are born oftentimes with a limited number of eggs. So, for example, you have all the eggs that you will ever produce in your lifetime, while males can continuously produce sperm throughout their life. For females, there's a lot of resources required for pregnancy. So, in some females, they are you have to, if you're a mammal, for example, you have to carry the fetus within your body for a certain period of time before giving birth. If you're a bird, for example, you have to put a lot of resources toward actually producing eggs. While in males, they have a little investment. They're not carrying the young at all. And then parental care. In most species, females are the ones who are doing the parental care. And so that takes a large investment. They don't leave the nest often. Sometimes the females are not eating very much, while the males usually have little parental investment. So because of this, females have become extremely choosy about who they choose to mate with. Now, there are two main types of sexual selection that we can talk about. There's what we call intersexual selection, and so this is usually where the female is choosing what male to mate with based on some sort of display the male is doing or by looking at his coloration, versus intrasexual selection where usually what we have are males maintaining a territory and then fighting for that territory and basically winning the ability to mate with females present in that territory. So like I said, in intersexual selection, females are choosing from males based on usually physical characteristics or whether or not they think they're going to be good parental caretakers. So for example, if we look here, this is looking at zebra finches. So this is a little zebra finch. You can see here they're brightly colored. Female zebra finches preferentially mate with males with brighter beak colors. And the reason for this is that the brighter beak color is an indicator of good health. And so we can actually look at this study here, and what they did is they took brothers and they fed one brother a high carotenoid diet. Carotenoids help form these bright orange pigmentations that we see in the beak and on the face, and then the other brother was fed a poor carotenoid diet. And when females were allowed to choose between the two brothers, they preferentially chose the brother with the very bright coloration. They can also choose from parental care. So for example, female kiwis choose males that are going to help to incubate their eggs. And they can actually have kiwi divorces. So kiwis usually pair up for life, but if that male is not doing a good job of helping to, incubate the eggs and provide good parental care, that female will leave him and choose a new male for subsequent mating seasons. So I would suggest you go to the lecture files and actually pull up this PowerPoint. There's a really cool sexual selection video about peacock spiders, and it's really fun to watch. So I would go and pull this up and link to the hyperlink found within the PowerPoint. In intrasexual selection, males are competing with each other for access to females. This is usually very territorial, has a territory basis. So, for example, male elephant seals fight for territories containing females. And so what they have found is that within territories, there are very few large males that sire most of the offspring. So they have these long stretches of beach, and you will have these elephant seals fighting with one another to maintain that territory. And so the larger males are usually the better competitors, and so they will win that fight and father more offspring within that stretch of beach. And so we have very few males siring offspring. And once again, I would hyperlink to the video and take a look at it. This shows elephant seals fighting in case you're ever curious about how that works. It talks about them maintaining their harems. You only really have to watch about the first 2 minutes of the video to see those males fighting over their territory to win mating rights. And with this intense sexual selection, we see the evolution of what we call sexual dimorphism. So when we talk about sexual dimorphism, it's a trait that differs between males and females. A classic example of sexual dimorphism is that of peacocks. So the males have these really bright, beautiful feathers, and of course they have these huge feathers versus the females who are pretty drab in color. And this is actually something that we see a lot with sexual dimorphism. You usually see males being, you can see males being very bright and colorful, while the females are a little bit more drab. And so basically what the males are doing is they're investing in these showy displays to get females to notice them so that they will choose them to mate with. So we see this a lot in birds. The fish that I study, the African cichlids that I study, have the same sort of thing. Males are very bright and they'll do like little shimmy dances to try to get females' attention to look at their bright coloration. And so these are traits that would increase a male's reproductive success within the population. And so if it's making someone more fit, right, we should see an increase of frequency in that trait in the population. And so if this male wins matings, then his male children will have the genes to have these nice, beautiful colors so that they can also be reproductively successful in the future. Now, I just want you to stop and think for just 1 second about what animals you know display sexual dimorphism and what traits are sexually dimorphic. So not all organisms have this sexual dimorphism that we talk about. It's only through, not these selective pressures for female mate choice that we see some of these sexually dimorphic traits. So I'll just give you some examples here. For example, in lions, we have the males have these nice, beautiful manes. In deer, the males have horns, while females don't. And for example, in chickens, we see, the rooster looking very different. It has a very different comb on its head and the wattles than the females. Now, this is in contrast to something like raccoons, which you see on the bottom left, where there's really not this huge sexual dimorphism. So, the males are generally a little bit bigger than females in raccoons, but we don't see a push for sexual dimorphism. And so, these differences did not evolve during the lineage that gave rise to raccoons. We don't see the traits differing between males and females.